A 53-year-old man worked as a surgeon at a local hospital. He loved his job so much that he couldn't go a day without cutting someone open on the operating table. He specialized in thoracic surgery, performing operations on chest organs. He was a master of his craft, conducting all surgeries with strict adherence to sanitary standards. Obsessed with cleanliness, he was also a perfectionist who strived for perfection in his work. He meticulously measured incisions, carefully examined each organ down to the smallest blood vessel, and savored every inch of the organ he was operating on. The surgeon would jump for joy when a patient needed surgery. He sometimes even pressured his patients into operations, slightly exaggerating the situation and implying that without surgery there could be irreversible consequences in the future, and they would agree. The surgeon was ecstatic about his upcoming operation. The patient was suspected of having cavernous tuberculosis, and the surgeon insisted that lung surgery was urgently needed. He always performed surgeries alone, claiming he didn't need anyone's help. Although the chief of medicine didn't like this, the surgeon was highly experienced and respected among patients and hospital staff, so he was allowed many liberties. Only the anesthesiologist would administer anesthesia before the surgery. Then the surgeon would ask him to leave and continue the operation alone. The moment of truth arrived. As the patient lay on the operating table, the surgeon's palms began to sweat slightly, and a passionate desire and mild satisfaction began to overtake him. He adored his work, particularly his love for cutting into people. It was his life. Despite this, his hands never shook. He was a true maniac jeweler of his craft. He performed his very first operation in childhood at the age of 12. A stray cat became his first patient. He performed heart surgery on it, butchering it beyond recognition with a kitchen knife he had stolen from home. After that, he became very interested in surgery and medicine in general. He went on to perform many successful operations, including heart surgeries, but now he was performing a lung operation. "Well, excellent. Nothing serious here. This will do nicely," muttered the surgeon, Ethan Brown, to himself. Among his successful operations, there were also unsuccessful ones. More accurately, they were unsuccessful not because the patient was hopeless, but because that's what he needed. And today's operation was precisely the case when he simply needed this patient's lung. An hour later, the surgeon removed the patient's lung. He placed it in a plastic bag and put it in the refrigerator, first attaching a label with a phone number. The surgeon then took out his phone and began photographing the patient lying on the operating table. A smile beamed across the doctor's face, his eyes gleaming. "Great. I'll add this to my collection." After the operation, the patient's death was declared. An investigation began at the hospital. However, since the patient had signed a waiver stating that in case of an unsuccessful operation, the doctors would not be held responsible, the matter didn't go beyond the hospital. Moreover, the patient lived alone and had practically no relatives, like the surgeon, who also lived alone. In the evening after work, he came home as usual. He went straight to his computer, where he printed out another photo of his patient with exposed innards. Then, from his desk, he took out a large album filled with similar photographs. 4,055, the surgeon said with a smile. That was the number of people he had photographed during his medical practice. He often reviewed his album, sitting in his chair for hours at a time. He could stare at the album without blinking for 5 minutes. That's how much he loved looking at people's insides. Ethan Brown picked up the phone and dialed the number that was on the label on the bag with the lung. "Hello, good evening. I have what you need. Prepare $70,000. We'll meet tomorrow at 8:00 p.m. at the usual place." Yes, as you've guessed, he was involved in illegal organ trafficking. He dealt with all kinds of people, from wealthy individuals who urgently needed organs for transplants, to ordinary people for whom he often offered good discounts. He also sold organs abroad. Ethan Brown loved people and always tried hard to help them. Sometimes he had to choose between a patient who needed surgery and the people to whom he sold these organs. He wanted to please everyone, but Ethan had his own weaknesses related to his profession. From the same drawer where the album was kept, he took out a diary in which he wrote down everything he considered necessary. March 13th, 2013, 11:21 p.m. Today will be the 10th in a row. I'm very nervous. I don't know how it will taste, but I really hope it goes down well. After the 9th, it was the kidney of a 39-year-old woman. I began to feel slightly nauseous. I think it's just because I didn't drink any water. Today I'll brew some strong tea to help it go down better. After writing, he closed the diary. The surgeon went to the kitchen. He took a plate with a quarter of a liver from the refrigerator and prepared a knife and fork. He always observed proper dining etiquette. Cutting off a piece, he brought it to his mouth. The smell is not bad, quite fresh, especially considering it's the liver of a 65-year-old man. He didn't drink and generally tried to lead a healthy lifestyle. That's wonderful. Well then, bon appétit, Ethan.